Welcome, weary soul. You've carried so much today, haven't you? The weight of decisions, the burden of uncertainty, the exhaustion that settles deep in your bones when life feels overwhelming. Tonight, you don't have to carry it alone. You've chosen to rest with the Book of Judges, stories of ordinary people who felt lost, abandoned, crying out for deliverance, just like you might be feeling right now. These aren't perfect heroes, but broken people who discovered that God shows up in the darkest moments when hope seems impossible. Take a deep breath with me. Let your shoulders drop. Feel your body settling into this safe space. Tonight, you'll discover how God's faithfulness shines brightest when everything feels chaotic, how His strength becomes perfect in your weakness. Father, we invite your presence into this quiet hour. Speak to the heart that's listening, the soul that needs rest. Remind them they are seen, known, and deeply loved. Let your peace wash over them now. In Jesus' name, Amen. You are held. You can rest here. Maybe you're feeling forgotten tonight, like you've been crying out for help, but heaven seems silent. Your prayers feel like they're hitting the ceiling, bouncing back unanswered. The Israelites knew this feeling all too well. Listen to what happened when they felt exactly like you do right now. Judges 3, verse 9. But when the Israelites cried out to the Lord, He raised up for them a deliverer. Did you catch that? When they cried out? Not when they had it all together. Not when they deserved rescue. When they cried out from their pain, from their desperation, from that place where you might be sitting right now. God heard them. And He hears you. A deliverer. Do you know what that means for you tonight? It means that every cry you've whispered into your pillow, every desperate prayer you've sent up when no one was watching, God has been listening. He's already preparing your deliverance, even when you can't see it yet. Your situation might feel impossible. The Israelites faced the same thing. They were oppressed by King Cushan-Rishathaim for 8 long years. 8 years of feeling trapped. 8 years of wondering if God had forgotten them. But God was working, even in the silence. Sometimes deliverance doesn't come immediately, does it? Sometimes we have to wait in the hard places longer than we want to. But listen to this truth. Your waiting is not wasted. Your pain is not purposeless. God is preparing something beautiful in the midst of what feels broken. You know what's remarkable about the judges? They weren't superhuman. Othniel, the first judge, he was just Caleb's nephew, an ordinary man who stepped up when God called. Ehud had a physical disability that actually became his strength. Shamgar used a farming tool to deliver Israel. These weren't polished heroes. They were regular people, probably feeling inadequate, definitely feeling overwhelmed. Just like you. Maybe you feel too, broken to be used by God. Too tired to make a difference, too hurt to help anyone else. The judges would understand. Most of them felt exactly the same way when God first called them. Deborah was a woman in a time when women weren't supposed to lead. Gideon was hiding in a winepress when God called him mighty warrior. Jephthah was rejected by his own family. Samson struggled with his impulses. These weren't people who had it all figured out. They were people who learned that God's strength shows up perfectly in human weakness. Your weakness doesn't disqualify you from God's love. Your struggles don't make you second class in His kingdom. Your failures don't put you beyond His reach. The book of Judges is full of imperfect people through whom God did extraordinary things. And you are not forgotten. When you feel like you're trapped in a cycle, the same struggles, the same fears, the same overwhelming circumstances, remember the pattern in Judges. The Israelites would fall into trouble, cry out to God, and He would raise up deliverance over and over again. Not because they deserved it, but because God is faithful even when His people aren't. That's grace. That's the heart of the Father who never gives up on his children, even when they give up on themselves. You might be in one of those difficult seasons right now, where it feels like you're under oppression, maybe from circumstances, maybe from your own thoughts, maybe from past wounds that won't heal. The enemy wants you to believe that this is permanent, that nothing will ever change, that God has moved on to someone more deserving. But that's a lie. Every single story in Judges begins with Israel in bondage and ends with deliverance. Not because they earned it, not because they were perfect, but because they cried out. And when they cried out, God moved. He's still moving tonight. In the quiet moments when you whisper his name, in the desperate prayers when you don't even know what to say, in the silent tears that you think no one sees, God sees, God hears, God responds. Judges 3, verse 10 tells us, "The Spirit of the Lord came on him, so that he became Israel's judge and went to war. The Lord gave Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overpowered him." The Spirit of the Lord, the same Spirit that rested on Othniel, is available to you right now. Not because you've earned it, not because you're strong enough, but because God delights in showing his power through surrendered hearts. You don't have to fight your battles alone. You don't have to figure everything out by yourself. You don't have to be strong enough to overcome what's overwhelming you. The same God who delivered Israel is the God who wants to bring deliverance into your life. Sometimes that deliverance comes instantly. Sometimes it's a process. Sometimes it looks different than what we expected, but it always comes when we cry out to the one who hears every prayer, sees every tear, and knows exactly what we need even before we ask. Tonight, as you rest in this truth, let your heart find comfort in this. You serve a God who specializes in impossible situations, a God who turns ordinary people into deliverers, a God who never abandons his children even in the darkest valleys. The land had peace for 40 years under Othniel's leadership, 40 years of rest after 8 years of oppression. Your season of struggle is not your permanent address. Peace is coming. Rest is available. Hope is being restored. Even now, close your eyes and receive this truth. You are loved beyond measure. Your cries are heard in heaven. Your deliverance is being prepared. And you can rest tonight, knowing that the God of the judges is watching over you. Your mind feels like it's under siege, doesn't it? Thoughts attacking from every direction. Fear about the future, regret about the past, anxiety about decisions you need to make. Your heart feels heavy, like you're carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours alone. The Israelites understood this feeling. In Judges chapter 3, we read about their oppression under Eglon, the king of Moab. For 18 years, they lived under crushing weight. 18 years of feeling defeated, overwhelmed, trapped in circumstances they couldn't control. But God saw their suffering, and he prepared a deliverer named Ehud. Here's what's beautiful about Ehud's story. He was left-handed in a right-handed world. What seemed like a disadvantage became his greatest strength. The very thing that might have made him feel different, inadequate, or out of place was exactly what God used to bring freedom. Your struggles, your differences, the things about yourself that you wish you could change. God sees them differently than you do. Where you see weakness, he sees potential for his strength. Where you see disqualification, he sees unique preparation. Ehud made a double-edged sword and strapped it to his right thigh, hidden under his clothing. Because he was left-handed, the guards didn't expect him to reach for a weapon on that side. What looked like vulnerability was actually strategic preparation. Maybe you've been hiding parts of yourself because you think they make you weak. Maybe you've been ashamed of your sensitivities, your past, your struggles, your differences, but God doesn't waste anything. He takes the very things that make you feel inadequate and transforms them into tools for breakthrough. The weight you're carrying tonight, it's real, isn't it? Like Eglon's oppression over Israel, it feels crushing, inescapable. Your emotional burdens feel as heavy as the tribute money Israel had to pay year after year. You're tired of giving and giving and giving, with no relief in sight. Judges 3, verse 15 says, "Again the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and he gave them a deliverer." Again, this wasn't their first time crying out. They had been here before, desperate, overwhelmed, at the end of themselves. And God heard them, again. He didn't grow tired of their neediness. He didn't roll his eyes at their repeated struggles. He responded with compassion. You can cry out again tonight. Even if you've prayed about this 1,000 times, even if you feel like you're repeating yourself, even if you wonder if God is tired of hearing about your problems, he's not. He never grows weary of his children's voices. When Ehud brought the tribute to King Eglon, he waited for the right moment. He didn't rush. He didn't force the timing. He watched and waited for God's perfect opportunity. Sometimes deliverance requires patience, not passive waiting, but active trust in God's timing. Your breakthrough might not come today. It might not come this week or this month. But it's coming. God is preparing something specific for your situation, something that will address not just the surface problems but the root issues, something that will bring lasting freedom, not just temporary relief. Ehud told King Eglon, "I have a secret message for you." And when they were alone, Ehud delivered the judgment that set Israel free. Sometimes God's deliverance comes in the secret places, the quiet moments when no one else is watching, the private conversations between you and him where real healing happens. You don't need a public miracle to experience God's power. You don't need everyone to see your breakthrough for it to be real. Some of God's most powerful work happens in the hidden places of your heart, where only He can reach. The description of Eglon is interesting. He was a very fat man. Sometimes the oppression in our lives grows slowly, gradually, until it becomes this overwhelming presence that seems impossible to overcome. Negative thought patterns, unhealthy relationships, destructive habits, they accumulate over time until they feel too big to defeat. But here's what happened when Ehud struck. Even the handle sank in after the blade, and his bowels discharged. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over it. This is graphic language, but it represents something profound. When God brings deliverance, it's complete. It's decisive. The very thing that seemed to make the enemy powerful, Eglon's size, became the means of total destruction. The fat that represented excess and oppression closed over the sword, sealing the victory. Your giant problems can become the very context for God's greatest victories in your life. The addiction that feels insurmountable, the relationship that seems hopeless, the fear that paralyzes you. These aren't too big for God. They're opportunities for Him to display His power in your weakness. After delivering the blow, Ehud escaped. He didn't stick around to see if it worked. He trusted God with the outcome and moved to the next phase of deliverance. Sometimes we need to strike our blow, make the decision, take the step of faith, do the hard thing, and then trust God with results we can't control. Ehud went to the hill country and blew a trumpet, calling the Israelites to follow him. Your personal deliverance isn't just about you. It's preparation for helping others find freedom too. The battles you're fighting tonight, the victories God is preparing in your life, they're not just for your benefit. They're training you to help others who will face similar struggles. When the Israelites saw Eglon was dead, they followed Ehud down and seized the fords of the Jordan River, preventing the Moabites from escaping. They struck down about 10,000 able-bodied and vigorous men. Not one escaped. What seemed like an impossible victory became total triumph. Your victory might start small, one decision, one conversation, one moment of breakthrough. But God has a way of taking our small acts of obedience and multiplying them into victories we never could have imagined. The land had peace for 80 years after Ehud's deliverance. 80 years. That's not temporary. Relief. That's generational transformation. The freedom God is preparing for you isn't just a quick fix. It's designed to impact not just your life, but the lives of those who come after you. Your children, your friends, your community, they're all connected to your breakthrough. When you find freedom, it creates space for others to find freedom too. When you overcome, you become living proof that God still delivers his people. Tonight, you might feel like the Israelites under oppression, weighed down, tribute paying, tired of the struggle. But remember, Ehud. Remember that God sees your situation. He's preparing deliverance that's perfectly suited to your unique circumstances. He's going to use the very things about you that feel like weaknesses as strengths for victory. The sword is being prepared. The timing is being orchestrated. The victory is closer than you think. And when it comes, it will be complete, decisive, and life-changing. Not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. Rest in this truth tonight. Your oppressor's days are numbered. Your deliverer is already chosen, and the peace that follows will be worth every day of struggle you've endured. You're wondering if God really sees what you're going through, aren't you? If he truly understands how isolated you feel, how long you've been waiting for change. The story of Shamgar in Judges chapter 3 might seem brief, but it carries a powerful promise for your weary heart tonight. Listen to this promise embedded in his story. Judges 3, verse 31. After Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too saved Israel. He too saved Israel. 5 simple words that carry an extraordinary promise. God can use anyone, with anything, at any time, to bring deliverance. Shamgar wasn't a professional warrior. He was likely a farmer. His weapon wasn't a sword, it was an ox goad, a farming tool used to prod cattle. But in God's hands, the ordinary became extraordinary. This means that right where you are, with whatever you have, in whatever circumstances you find yourself, God can work. You don't need to be qualified by human standards. You don't need the perfect tools or the ideal situation. You just need to be available when God calls. Maybe you feel like all you have is an ox goad, ordinary gifts, simple talents, everyday opportunities. The promise of Shamgar is that God specializes in using the common to accomplish the impossible. Your availability is more important than your ability. But let's move to an even deeper promise found in the story of Deborah and Barak. When the Israelites were oppressed by Jabin, king of Canaan, for 20 years, they cried out to the Lord. 20 years of feeling defeated, 20 years of living under harsh rule, 20 years of wondering if deliverance would ever come. Here's the promise God gave through Deborah. Judges 4, verse 14. Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone out before you? The Lord has gone out before you. Do you hear that promise for your life tonight? God hasn't just sent you into battle alone. He hasn't just given you instructions and walked away. He has gone out before you. He's already in your tomorrow, preparing the way, arranging circumstances, moving in situations you can't even see yet. Your future isn't uncertain to God. The challenges you'll face next week, next month, next year, He's already there, making a way through what seems impossible. You're not walking into unknown territory. You're walking into places where God has already been working on your behalf. Deborah sat under a palm tree between Ramah and Bethel, and the Israelites came to her for judgment. But when it came time for battle, she didn't go alone. She told Barak, "I will certainly go with you." Here's a beautiful promise. God doesn't ask you to face your battles alone. Even when you need to step up and be brave, you don't step up alone. The promise gets even more specific. Deborah told Barak exactly how the victory would unfold. "I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give him into your hands." God doesn't just promise vague deliverance. He promises specific victory over specific problems in your life. The anxiety that keeps you awake at night, the relationship that's breaking your heart, the financial pressure that feels crushing. God has specific strategies for specific struggles. He's not offering generic hope. He's providing targeted solutions. When the battle came, something remarkable happened. Judges 4, verse 15 says, "At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword." The Lord routed. This is a promise about God's active involvement in your battles. He doesn't just cheer from the sidelines. He doesn't just offer encouragement and hope you figure it out. He actively routs your enemies. He causes confusion in the camps of everything that's opposing you. That depression that feels so organized, so systematic in its attacks against your peace, God can root it. The addiction that seems so strategic in its timing and temptations, God can scatter its power. The relationship problems that feel so complex and entrenched, God can bring breakthrough where human wisdom fails. The promise continues. Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. When overwhelming circumstances come against you, they might look intimidating at first, like Sisera's 900 iron chariots. But God has a way of reducing the most frightening opposition to a man running on foot, desperately looking for somewhere to hide. Sisera sought refuge in the tent of Jael, thinking he'd found safety. But even there, God's justice caught up with him. Here's the promise. There's nowhere your problems can hide from God's reach. No matter how deeply rooted, how well defended, how cleverly disguised, God knows where every enemy is hiding, and he knows exactly how to bring final victory. Jael gave Sisera milk when he asked for water. She covered him with a blanket when he needed rest. She seemed like she was helping him, but she was actually positioning him for defeat. Sometimes what looks like setbacks in your life are actually God positioning things for your ultimate victory. That delay you're frustrated about, that door that closed when you thought it should open, that relationship that ended when you wanted it to continue. God might be using these apparent setbacks to position you for something far better than what you originally wanted. When Sisera fell asleep, Jael took a tent peg and hammer and drove the peg through his temple into the ground. The victory was complete, decisive, final. This is God's promise to you. The victory he brings won't be temporary or partial. It will be complete. The things that have been tormenting you won't just be wounded or weakened, they'll be finished. The song Deborah and Barak sang afterward reveals another promise. So may all your enemies perish, Lord, but may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Like the sun when it rises in its strength. This is God's promise for your future. Not just survival, not just getting by, not just making it through. You're going to rise like the sun in its strength. Brilliant, powerful, life-giving, impossible to ignore. The darkness you're walking through right now isn't your permanent address. It's the context for your coming sunrise. Every difficulty you're facing is preparing you for a glory that's proportional to the depth of your current struggle. After this victory, the land had peace for 40 years. 40 years. That's not just a brief respite, that's generational transformation. The victory God is preparing for you isn't just about getting through this current crisis. It's about establishing a foundation of peace and strength that will impact your life for decades to come. Your children will benefit from the battles you're fighting tonight. Your future relationships will be healthier because of the healing God is doing in you now. Your ministry, your career, your capacity to help others, all of it is being shaped by how God delivers you in this season. The promise of Judges isn't just historical, it's personal. The same God who heard Israel's cries, who raised up deliverers, who brought specific victories over specific enemies, who established lasting peace. That God is listening to your prayers tonight. He's not just able to help you, He's already committed to your deliverance. He's already working on your behalf. He's already gone out before you into every situation you'll face. The victory song is already written. Your enemies are already defeated in the heavenly realms. What you're experiencing now in struggle and pain is the earthly working out of a victory that's already accomplished in eternity. Rest tonight in this unshakable promise. Your God is mighty to save, powerful to deliver, and committed to your complete and lasting victory. The sun is about to rise in your life with strength you've never imagined possible. I know it's hard to believe right now, when you're in this much pain, when nothing seems to be working out the way you hoped, when God feels silent despite your prayers. Believing feels almost impossible, doesn't it? Gideon would understand exactly how you're feeling tonight. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he was hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat in secret because he was afraid of the Midianites. And the angel's greeting? "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Mighty warrior. Gideon was hiding. He was afraid. He was doing his work in secret, trying to stay under the radar. Yet God called him what he was destined to become, not what he appeared to be in that moment. Listen to Gideon's honest response in Judges 6, verse 13. "Pardon me, my Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about?" Do you hear the pain in that question? The confusion, the struggle to reconcile what he'd heard about God with what he was actually experiencing. Gideon was essentially saying, if God is so good, if he's so powerful, if he cares about us so much, then why is life so hard? Why do I feel so abandoned? And you know what's remarkable? God didn't rebuke Gideon for his doubt. He didn't tell him to just have more faith. Instead, God met him exactly where he was and began building his faith one step at a time. Maybe you feel like Gideon tonight, hiding from life's battles, questioning God's presence, struggling to believe the promises you've heard. That's not a sign of weak faith. That's often where strong faith begins. In honest questions and authentic doubt, God told Gideon, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? Go in the strength you have, not the strength you wish you had, not the strength you think you need, not the strength other people seem to have, the strength you actually have right now, in this moment, with all your fears and questions and limitations." But Gideon still wasn't convinced. He asked for a sign. "If now I have favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me." And God gave him one. Gideon prepared an offering, and fire flared from the rock to consume it. God didn't roll his eyes at Gideon's need for confirmation. He graciously provided exactly what Gideon needed to take the next step of faith. You're allowed to ask for signs too. You're allowed to say, "God, if this is really you, if you're really working in my situation, help me see it. Give me something to hold on to." Faith doesn't mean blind acceptance. Faith means trusting God even when you can't see the whole picture. But it's okay to ask for glimpses along the way. After the sign, Gideon built an altar and called it, "The Lord is Peace." But the very next instruction from God was to tear down his father's altar to Baal. Sometimes building faith requires destroying the false securities we've been relying on. The thought patterns, the coping mechanisms, the relationships that promise peace but deliver bondage. Gideon was so afraid of his family and the townspeople that he did this work at night. Even after seeing God's power, even after receiving confirmation, he was still afraid. And God worked with him anyway. Your fear doesn't disqualify you from God's purposes. Your trembling doesn't make you unusable. When the Midianites and Amalekites settled in the valley, their camels could no more be counted than the sand on the seashore. The opposition looked overwhelming, impossible to defeat. But watch what happened next. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, summoning the Abiezrites to follow him. The same Spirit that came on Gideon is available to you tonight. Not because you've conquered all your fears, not because you have perfect faith, but because God delights in using willing hearts, even when they're still learning to trust. 32,000 men responded to Gideon's call, but God said that was too many, that Israel might think they won the victory by their own strength. So he told Gideon to reduce the army, first to 10,000, then to just 300 men. Sometimes God reduces our external resources to increase our internal faith. When human help falls away, when financial security decreases, when familiar supports are removed, it's not always a sign of God's displeasure. Sometimes it's preparation for a miracle that will be so clearly supernatural that no one can take credit except him. The night before the battle, God told Gideon, "Get up, go down against the camp, because I am going to give it into your hands. If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah and listen to what they are saying." God knew Gideon was still afraid, and instead of condemning the fear, he provided a way for Gideon's faith to be strengthened. When Gideon overheard a Midianite telling his friend about a dream that clearly depicted Israel's victory, Gideon's faith finally solidified. Sometimes God allows us to overhear conversations, to stumble upon confirmations, to receive encouragement from unexpected sources. These aren't coincidences. These are God's gentle ways of building our faith when we need it most. The battle plan seemed ridiculous. 300 men with trumpets, empty jars, and torches, new swords, new traditional weapons, new conventional strategy. But when they followed God's instructions, the enemy turned on each other in confusion, and Israel won a complete victory without losing a single soldier. Your situation might require a battle plan that doesn't make sense to anyone else. God's strategy for your breakthrough might look foolish to human wisdom, but if it's God's plan, it will work. Not because it's logical, but because it's backed by his power. After the victory, the Israelites wanted to make Gideon their king, but he refused, saying, "The Lord will rule over you." Even in his moment of greatest triumph, Gideon remembered that the victory came from God, not from his own strength or wisdom. This is mature faith. Not claiming credit for God's work, not getting prideful when breakthrough comes, but giving glory where glory is due. The victory you're going to experience isn't about proving how strong or smart or spiritual you are. It's about displaying God's goodness and power through your yielded life. Faith isn't the absence of doubt. It's choosing to obey God despite your doubts. It's saying yes to his direction, even when you can't see how it will work out. It's taking the next step he's asking you to take, even if your knees are shaking. Gideon started hiding in a winepress and ended up defeating armies. Your faith journey might feel small and uncertain right now, but God sees the mighty warrior he's calling you to become. He sees the victory he's preparing through your availability. Tonight, you don't need perfect faith. You just need to go in the strength you have. Trust God for the next step and watch him turn your willingness into wonders you never could have imagined. Your 300 soldiers moment is coming. Your empty jar victory is being prepared. And when it arrives, you'll know beyond any doubt that it was God who delivered you, and your faith will never be the same. Your mind has been working so hard today, hasn't it? Processing, analyzing, worrying, trying to solve problems that feel too big for any one person to handle. Even now, as you try to rest, thoughts keep cycling through your mind like the Israelites who kept cycling through the same patterns in Judges. But listen to what God promised them and what he promises you tonight. Judges 3, verse 11. So the land had rest 40 years. Rest, not just a break, not just a pause between battles, but deep, lasting rest. The kind of rest that allows healing to happen, growth to occur, peace to be established. This is what God wants to give you tonight. Take a slow breath with me. Feel your body settling. Notice how even your breath can become a prayer when you're intentional about it. Each inhale, breathing in God's peace. The stories of the Judges remind us that God sees every season of struggle, and he always brings seasons of rest afterward. Always. The oppression doesn't last forever. The battles don't continue indefinitely. Rest comes, peace arrives, and it's deeper than anything you could create for yourself. After Ehud's victory, the land had rest for 80 years. After Deborah and Barak's triumph, peace for 40 years. After Gideon's unlikely victory, rest throughout his lifetime. God's pattern isn't struggle followed by more struggle. It's struggle followed by rest, difficulty followed by peace, weeping followed by joy. Your current struggle has an expiration date. The pain you're feeling tonight won't be the story of your entire life. Rest is coming. Peace is being prepared, and it will be proportional to what you've endured. Let your breathing slow even more. Feel the weight of your body sinking into rest. Your muscles don't need to be tense anymore. Your shoulders don't need to carry the world tonight. You can let go, just for these hours. Judges 5, verse 31, gives us this beautiful image. But may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. Then the land had rest 40 years. Like the sun when it rises in its strength. Can you picture it? The way the sun breaks through the darkness with such power, such certainty, such inevitable glory? The way it doesn't struggle or strain, but simply rises because that's what suns do? That's your future. Not frantic effort, not desperate struggling, not barely surviving. Rising like the sun in strength, natural, powerful, life-giving, beautiful. But for now, rest. Let the sun of righteousness rise with healing in his wings while you sleep. Let him work in the quiet hours what you can't accomplish in your waking efforts. Let him fight your battles while you recover your strength. Feel your heartbeat slowing, steady and strong, like a song of trust. Each beat a reminder that you are alive, you are loved, you are held by the one who never slumbers or sleeps. The story of Samson reminds us that even when we feel weak, God's strength is still available. Even when we've made mistakes, God's grace still covers us. Even when we feel like we've failed, God can still use our lives for his glory. In Samson's final prayer, he cried out, "Sovereign, Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more." Just once more. Sometimes that's all we can pray, isn't it? God, I don't need strength for the rest of my life right now. I just need strength for this one thing, this one day, this one moment. And that's enough. God honors the prayer for strength for just this moment. Your eyes are getting heavier now. That's good. That's your body's way of trusting, of letting go, of accepting the gift of rest that God offers to his beloved children. The pattern throughout Judges is so consistent. Cry out, deliverance comes, peace follows. You've cried out, you've done your part. Now it's time to let God do his part while you rest in his faithfulness. Judges 8, verse 28. During Gideon's lifetime, the land enjoyed peace 40 years. During your lifetime, peace is possible. Not just momentary relief, not just temporary breaks from the storm, but sustained peace. The kind of peace that becomes the atmosphere of your life, not just occasional visitors. Let your mind slow down now, like a river moving from rapids to still waters. You don't need to figure anything out right now. You don't need to solve any problems while you sleep. You can trust the God who never stops working, even when you stop striving. The final judge mentioned in our journey tonight is Samuel, though he appears at the end of this season. And here's what we know about him. He prayed. When Israel cried out for deliverance from the Philistines, Samuel didn't gather an army. He offered a sacrifice and prayed. And God thundered from heaven with such a mighty voice that the Philistines were thrown into panic and defeated. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pray and let God handle the details. As you drift towards sleep, know that prayers are still being offered on your behalf. Jesus ever lives to make intercession for you. The Spirit is praying with groanings too deep for words. You are surrounded by prayer, even when you can't form words yourself. Your breathing is so peaceful now, in and out, like gentle waves, each breath a gift, each moment a grace. You are held in arms that will never let you go. You are loved with a love that will never fail. You are safe in a peace that passes understanding. The land had rest, and you can have rest tonight too. Real rest, deep rest, healing rest. Rest that reaches all the way down to your soul and restores what has been depleted. Feel yourself sinking deeper into this place of safety, like lying down in green pastures beside still waters. Your shepherd is watching over you. He will not let you be harmed while you sleep. He restores your soul in the quiet places. Judges 21, verse 25, ends the book with these words. In those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. But you have a king tonight. You have Jesus, the ultimate judge and deliverer. You don't have to figure out what's right on your own. You can rest in his wisdom, his timing, his perfect plans for your life. Your eyelids are so heavy now. That's beautiful. That's trust. That's faith in action, releasing control and accepting the gift of rest. Tomorrow will have its own challenges, its own opportunities, its own grace. But tonight, this moment, right now, you can simply rest. You can let go and let God. The same God who delivered Israel again and again, who raised up judges when they were needed, who brought peace after every battle, that God is with you tonight. Rest now. You are safe. You are loved. You are held. Sweet dreams, beloved child. Let the peace of God watch over your sleep, and tomorrow you will rise like the sun in its strength. Rest, just rest. You are home in his love. Nothing can separate you from this love. Rest now. Rest